Can an outwardly clean life still hide an empty heart? Welcome to this Bible study. Today we're jumping headfirst into an intense, highly visual journey straight into the heart of the biblical text. We are breaking down a really powerful devotional study of Matthew 12. And listen, we're stripping away the fluff here. We're going to look directly at the precise imagery, the dramatic scenes, and the raw power found in the source material. This is not some quiet, boring history lesson. It's a high-stakes clash of spiritual kingdoms. We're going to break down the key teachings, understand the context, and extract exactly how this ancient text applies to our daily lives today. So get ready to focus in. Let me ask you something right off the bat. A really piercing question from the study. Are you suffocating under the joyless weight of empty religious traditions? It's a heavy question, right? But the source material challenges us to consider if our spiritual lives feel more like an exhausting burden of rules and checklists, rather than a place of true life-giving freedom. If you ever feel like you're just going through the motions, constantly trying to earn your standing through moral performance, then the insights in chapter 12 are going to speak directly to that struggle. To really grasp what's happening, we need to vividly set the scene, pulling right from the text. Picture this with me, 1st century Judea. We're talking sun-baked limestone, the intense beating heat of the day, and dusty, unpaved streets. And right in the middle of this hyper-realistic setting, Jesus and his disciples are walking through a field of grain. Now it happens to be the Sabbath. The disciples are hungry, so they simply start plucking heads of grain to eat as they walk. It's a completely normal, relatable human moment. But in this specific cultural setting, this one simple act, it sparks an absolute firestorm. So that brings us right to the core of the chapter, the Sabbath clash. It's an explosive collision between tradition and true freedom. You see, the religious elite, the Pharisees, they were watching these guys like hawks. The physical clash happens the very second the disciples reach out their hands. The text notes that his disciples were in hunger and began to pluck the ears of corn. Now, to the Pharisees, they weren't just grabbing a quick snack. No, they were technically harvesting on a day of rest. They immediately accused them of breaking the law, completely ignoring the basic human need of hunger. It really showcases the joyless burden of their legalism. But Jesus steps right in to defend his followers. He actually points them back to the scriptures, reminding them how King David himself entered the house of God and ate the sacred shewbread when he and his men were starving. The contrast here is just stunning. On one side, you have the Pharisees' rigid legalism, cold, unyielding, obsessed with catching people messing up. On the other side, you have Jesus' gentle compassion. He responds by declaring that he is the Lord of the Sabbath. He has the ultimate authority. Yet, as the study beautifully points out, he's also the compassionate servant. He's the one who won't break a bruised reed or snuff out of smoking flags. The narrative makes it crystal clear. He didn't come to crush hurting people under the suffocating weight of religion. He came to offer grace, to heal withered hands, and to restore life. Now, as the chapter progresses, Jesus transitions from physical actions to showing how our words expose the heart. The religious leaders were actively trying to explain away God's obvious power right in front of them, even going so far as to attribute Jesus' miracles to dark spiritual forces. In response, Jesus drops a profound diagnostic statement. The study spells it out perfectly. Our words are a direct reflection of our hearts, and we will be held accountable for them. It's a sobering reality check. True faith isn't just some private internal feeling that has zero impact on the outside world. It is actively proven by the overflow of the mouth. The Pharisees were speaking out of the evil abundance of their hearts, and Jesus reminds them and us that you literally can't hide what's truly inside. Eventually your words are going to betray your true loyalties. What we say matters deeply, and this brilliantly illustrates how Jesus handles the continued skepticism of the crowd. Unbelievably, the Pharisees actually have the nerve to demand a miraculous sign from him to prove his authority, but Jesus completely refuses to perform a magic trick on demand for an unbelieving generation. Instead, he points straight to the ultimate sign of his authority, the sign of Jonah. Just as Jonah was in the belly of the great fish for 3 days and 3 nights, Jesus declares that the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth. He is directly prophesying his own death, burial, and triumphant resurrection. The text presents that as the ultimate proof of his kingship, and the only sign they're going to get. The tone shifts dramatically here as we look at the danger of the empty house. It's a truly chilling warning. This part of the text directly confronts our modern obsession with self-help. It states, it is not enough to be cleansed from evil. One must be filled with the Holy Spirit to avoid a worse spiritual state. The study exposes the fatal flaw of relying solely on moral self-improvement or checking boxes on a religious list. Sure, you can clean up your act, you can sweep out the bad habits, but if you stop there, The text warns you are leaving yourself incredibly vulnerable. Let's break down exactly why moral cleansing just isn't enough. Jesus tells this intense story of an unclean spirit that leaves a person. The house, meaning the person's soul, is swept clean and put in perfect order, but it's empty because it lacks the act of filling of the Holy Spirit. It's completely vulnerable to even greater darkness. The spirit returns, finds the house unoccupied, and brings 7 other spirits more wicked than itself. The final state of that person is literally worse than the first. A heart that's merely reformed by religious rules, but totally devoid of God's Spirit, is a tragedy waiting to happen. It demands an active daily filling of the Spirit. All right, let's bring this into the here and now. Practical application for today, because we aren't just learning first century history. The source material gives us some really clear, actionable takeaways. First, we need to examine our hearts for legalism. Are we, kind of like the Pharisees, allowing man-made tradition to blind us to what God is doing right in front of us? Second, we have to actively welcome the Holy Spirit. We need to make sure our spiritual house isn't just swept clean of bad habits, but is actually overflowing with His presence. And third, value your true spiritual family. At the very end of chapter 12, Jesus makes this radical statement. When told His earthly mother and brothers are waiting for Him outside, He points straight to His disciples and says that whoever does the will of His Father is His brother and sister and mother. He's saying our truest, most important identity is found in being an obedient member of His eternal spiritual family. So it all comes down to this absolutely unavoidable question. Will you receive Him or reject Him? Matthew chapter 12 draws a heart-dividing line. As Jesus' power and absolute authority become undeniable, the division between those who surrender to Him and those who reject Him grows starker. You can't just be an admirer from afar. You can't just play neutral. His authority over the Sabbath, over the spiritual realm, and over the human heart demands a definitive choice. So what will yours be? This Bible study was brought to you by Fred Clements from You Need Faith in Jesus. For more Bible studies, please subscribe to the channel. For more free Bible tools and resources, head over to You Need Faith in Jesus at unfishbird.com, where you can also buy a copy of the full Matthew verse-by-verse devotional study by Fred Clements. This video was brought to you by Fred Clements from You Need Faith in Jesus. For more videos, please subscribe to the channel for free Bible tools, resources, devotionals, and Christian study materials. Visit unfishbird.com. Remember, an empty heart can only be filled through faith in Jesus.